So as I say, this is, as far as I'm aware, this is a bit of an experiment. I've not done something at the centre and then headed off into town. It's a good break for the urban retreat leaders who have been here every day and every night for the past 8 days. So it's a treat for us to go out, leave the premises. But yeah, I'm really pleased to be able to do it. I think there were there were a lot of explicit links between Buddhism and different aspects of culture, but let's call it art. Certainly in the Triratna movement and order, there's a very, very strong emphasis on the importance of the arts in living a spiritual life. And meditation, of course, and ethical practice, of course, are kind of vital ways of working with our mind and working with our habits and working with kind of expanding our mind. There are lots of indirect methods, and I won't mention them all, but art and engaging with the arts is one of them. And certainly for my life, since I came along to the centre and since I've been sort of more explicitly, living a spiritual life, my kind of engagement with the arts has been really, really vital to me being able to live this sort of life. It's had a very, very nourishing effect on my, kind of my mind in a sense. So, and certainly when I came along, maybe I'll talk about this a bit more later as well. I didn't really know how to look at art. I didn't really know how to read poetry. I just didn't. No one had told me. I'd been taken to galleries, of course, and I'd picked up poetry books, but no one had ever sort of encouraged me to sort of go deeper into them and see what they were about. Maitri Bandhu really, it's kind of, I felt, educated me in knowing how to look at paintings. Let's not even call it art. Art is a really weird word in a sense. All we've actually got are loads and loads of paintings, lots of pieces of music, lots of poems, and tonight we're going to just simply go and look at 6 or 7 paintings all in one room by the same artist. So, yeah, and there were, in a sense, there were more explicit links between, Buddhism and art, or the spiritual life and art. So everything to do with Buddhism, everything that the Buddha taught, all the institutions over the years that have grown up, all the practices, all the rituals, all the methods are about transcending our kind of our small mind, transcending ourselves. That's the whole purpose of the Dharma, the whole purpose of the teaching of the Buddha. It's certainly the whole purpose of this Buddhist centre and all the activities that go on here. The purpose is to expand our consciousness, to expand our sense of who we think we are, to let go of the limiting ways that we sort of habitually act, so that a natural, more of a natural, radiant, open mind or open consciousness can come forth. That's what the Dharma's for. That's what the Dharma's for. It's to allow consciousness to, you could say, expand. You could say it's a way of letting go of a fixed identity that limits us, that limits the way that we are, so that we can live in a much more open, sensitive, clear, creative consciousness. And there's lots of methods, there's lots of ways of doing that, there's lots of ways of letting go of oneself, there's lots of ways of letting go of one's views. And of course beauty is another way of doing that. When you have an experience of beauty, when it's a sort of a genuine experience of beauty, not an experience that you think is beautiful, if you see what I mean, but a genuine response of beauty, then it takes you outside yourself. At times you become ecstatic. You're lifted up outside of yourself, and of course, beauty is something that moves you. It moves your emotions, doesn't it? When you're moved, you're emotionally moved, and when you're moved by beauty, it's not just a cognitive idea, it's a physical, emotional response to something beyond you. And this is really important, because if we're going to live a spiritual life, we can't just do it sort of with concepts. We can't just do it intellectually, if you like. Even though we might know intellectually a lot about the Buddha's teaching, we can't, in a sense, transform ourselves without engaging our heart, our emotions. What moves us, isn't it, are our emotions. That's what moves us. And beauty, and of course art, is a way of that happening. So coming into contact with art is a way of, in a sense, moving our emotions, engaging our emotions. And what happens is when you can let go of yourself to some extent, or when you can allow a more expansive consciousness to emerge, and we've all had experiences of that, is that you enter a much more appreciative mode of being. So you quite naturally have an appreciative experience of life, don't you? It's less sort of cognized and less, in a sense, rationalized, and you have an appreciative state of mind. And when you have an appreciative state of mind, you're less caught up in a utilitarian state of mind. So I think this is one of the real benefits of art, and beauty, of course, because it can allow you to, well, either momentarily or for longer periods of time, just let go of always being so useful, always sort of doing the useful things, if you see what I mean. Sangharakshita says that you don't need to justify your existence by being useful. You yourself are the justification of your existence. But it's very, very tempting, isn't it, to identify a sense of self-worth, or identify ourselves with utilitarian attitude. Last time I was on solitary retreat, I was just kind of, for some reason, I just started recalling. I had quite strong, vivid memories of moments of beauty in my life, like when I was a teenager and I was sat on a bridge overlooking a river, and for some reason I just, it was just really beautiful. I found it really beautiful, and then, I forgot about it and carried on, and all these moments of beauty in my life kept coming back to me, and I suddenly thought, gosh, it's so easy to look back on my life with a utilitarian mindset, like, these are the jobs I did, these are the grades I got at school, this is the grade I got at university, then my career went like this, and then, all of that. I don't think I ever sort of told my life story in terms of beauty, but it's as valid, isn't it? In fact, it's more valid. It's also very easy to kind of rely too heavily on values that perhaps don't have real value, like financial. Very, very easy to judge the world in financial terms and think that that is the only definition of value. But the real values are aesthetic. Real values are found in beauty. That's where real value lies, beauty and truth. That's where the real value is. It's got nothing to do with money, for example. So the advantage with art is, again, very big word, isn't it? And I don't want to get involved in, art gets so caught up in, status and class and politics and money, and consumption and financial value. I'm not talking about any of that this evening. What I hope we can engage with is sort of art that genuinely has spiritual values, that has a genuine spiritual value. So I hope that we go to the Tate and can engage with these paintings, as works of spiritual value. And of course, the advantage of art in this sense is it's been produced by artists who are trying to express those values, who are devoting their life to trying to express those values through that medium. And that's a real boon, because that means we can come along and go and have a look, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes those values and those qualities are ignited in us, and there's a communication between the sensitivity of the artist and what he or she is trying to express, and those values that are within us. It doesn't always work, does it? You can easily go to an art gallery and there's, fantastic art on the walls, like Cézanne's and all sorts, and one's heart remains as cold and icy as a lump of flint, and you're just completely unmoved. It's just like that. You can't. This experience of beauty is very mysterious. You can't sort of guarantee its arising. Truth, beauty, and ethics. Of course, when you're practicing spiritual life, when you're practicing Buddhism, we're trying to practice ethics. We're trying to overcome our habitual self-interest and be aware of others in a very, very full sense. So doing the Metabhavana is a way of kind of expanding our circumference of ourself, or coming out of the tendency to self-orientate. And beauty is another way of doing that. And truth, the pursuit of truth. But from a Buddhist perspective, you need all three. You need an ethical life, you need to be responsive to beauty, and you need to have an aptitude for the truth. You can't have one without the others. So truth without beauty and ethics is just cold philosophical reasoning, cool philosophical reasoning. Beauty without truth or ethics is just a refined aesthetic selfishness. Jnanavacha was talking about that on Monday. And ethics without beauty or truth is well-meaning, but often blind activity, and often, gets very literalistic or moralistic. So, from a Buddhist perspective, you need all these three aspects. And a genuine response to beauty is the same as a genuine response to truth. So I was just again sort of thinking of experiences of beauty and truth. So like when I was younger, I had a very, very strong response to the universe. Like looking up at the sky. In my pre-adult days, I think I'm just about an adult now. Anyway, pre-adult days, and just having a very, very strong sense of awe and wonder at the universe, very, very strong, and it really deeply affected me, and I think it's one of the reasons why I ended up coming to the Buddhist Centre. It gave me a very, very strong sense that there was something more to life, that what was going on in my we wouldn't have called it that at the time, but my mundane world, i.e. going to school and trying to learn to play the trumpet and trying to draw flowers or whatever, it wasn't enough. It didn't seem to add up to the experience of awe and wonder that I had also experienced, and that was definitely an experience of beauty. But it was also an experience of truth. And also, I can remember being on a retreat at Vidyadaka up in North Wales, and just walking down the hillside after a meditation near the end of the retreat. And it was autumn, and all the trees on the other side of the hillside were all in their autumnal colours. And for a while, I found it both like beautiful, but like terrifying, because I realised that it was an image of transformation. Everything was changing, and I think that truth really, I could feel it vividly, and it was kind of terrifying in a way and beautiful. So truth and beauty in experience, truth and beauty are indistinguishable. And also with ethics, I can remember being on one of these big winter retreat teams in winter. The LBC runs very large retreats, 120 people, and the team is like 18, 19 people. And I was on the cooks team, and so it's very demanding. I've never been trained in cooking, nor had any of the other cooks, and cooks. So we were making food for 100 people, 120 people every day. Pretty demanding. I found it pretty demanding, but also deeply rewarding, because it was very explicit altruistic work. We were engaged in an altruistic project. And I can remember one day I was absolutely exhausted, and I think it was Christmas Day, and we were making extra special food. And I was just taking the broccoli out in this huge sort of container, steam everywhere, people just queuing up, and I suddenly kind of broke out of myself, and I wasn't tired at all. I was completely alive. And it was as though the practice of ethics, the practice of working for the benefit of others, working in a team, good communication, kind of thinned my idea of myself to such an extent, and the activity, I just kind of rose up out of myself, or myself fell away, and there was life, absolutely vivid, absolutely vibrant. And similar, experientially, similar to an experience of beauty. Interesting, when I was just thinking about this talk, the Urban Retreat text arrived saying, in your search for freedom, happiness is a byproduct. And that's what we're doing, isn't it? That's what we're doing. We're searching for freedom. We're searching for ways in which we can become free of ourselves, free of all the ways of being that hold us back. And if you're engaged in that search, well, you're just naturally happy because it's deeply meaningful. Anyway, that's little bit about Buddhism and sort of art and beauty. And what I'd like to do now is just talk a little bit about Rothko and the paintings that we're going to go and see. And then I'm going to talk about how we're going to do it. Because I want to do it in a bit of a particular way. So we're not. It's worth knowing we're not just going for a night out. This isn't like the night out of the Urban Retreat where we're all going to go to the Tate Members Lounge and like drink coffee and chat and get to know. That's not what we're doing. What I want us to do is to go to these paintings in the spirit of, in a sense, in the spirit of devotion, but in the sense of actually we're going to try and see these spiritual images. Anyway, I'll explain how it's going to work. May I just say a little bit about Rothko? I mean, I don't want to speak much about Rothko. It's easy to find out about Mark Rothko. There's lots and lots of biographical, historical information, which may or may not be useful in terms of engaging with his art. You don't need to know anything about Rothko. You don't need to know anything about the context that he worked in order to be able to engage with his paintings. And in a way, I mean, it is quite interesting, but in a way, that's not what we're doing tonight. I don't want to just feed you information, about Mark Rothko. I mean, he was born in 1903 and died in 1970, I think. He was a Russian Jew, worked in America. The main part of his work that he's most recognised for was done in between 1940s, 50s, and 60s. That's probably all you need to know. You don't even need to know that actually, but you know it now. I went to see. I can't remember when it was. I don't know, 15 years ago or something. I went to Paris on my own to try and have an experience, and I was just wandering around. I was wandering around Paris, and I just came across this big Rothko exhibition. I didn't even know it was there. I didn't know much about Rothko, but I went in, and it was a fairly large exhibition, not enormous, but fairly large. And his work was in chronological order, and his work starts off quite figuratively, and using myths from Greece, and then he moves into doing paintings of the subway in New York and so forth, and then gradually his sort of recognisable style comes through, where he essentially paints large areas of colour, and as his work chronologically moves on, they become darker and darker until the paintings near the end of his life, not his last paintings actually, but near the end of his life, almost entirely black. And I was deeply, deeply affected by them. I came out and I was in tears, and I felt like I didn't even know why. I couldn't even explain why. But I had a very, very strong experience of, how I described it to myself afterwards, it was like I was completely drenched. It's like the canvases had just rained down their beauty on me, and I was completely overwhelmed actually. So these images in the Tate, they're all done they were all done for one commission. So they were a group. Not all of them are in that room actually, but most of them are. And they were done for this fancy restaurant in New York, and he got paid at the time $35,000, but equivalent of like $2.5 million now. And he did them, and then he didn't accept the commission. He'd done the paintings and he gave the money back, and he said something like they were done for this restaurant, the Four Seasons restaurant in New York, and he said something like, people who eat that sort of food for that sort of money are never going to look at my paintings. And that was the end of the commission. But actually the paintings have sort of ended up, I think he gave them to the Tate, or some of them. Anyway, so they're all in this sort of fairly darkish room in the Tate, quite low level. And they're large, they're pretty big, and they're pretty dark. They're quite dark red, quite dark black. There's not a lot to look at, in a sense. There's no narrative. A lot of paintings you look at have a narrative. They have a figure, they have a scene, they have a landscape. You can locate yourself in relationship to it. You can think about it in terms of past and future. This hasn't got any of that. Interestingly, they've got a Turner painting in the room before the Rothko Room, and it's a sort of a classic Turner seascape, almost entirely light, just this sort of glow of light, and just a few tiny masts, I think it is, of ships, just to orientate you, so you can locate yourself. Oh yes, it's that sort of landscape. And it seems like it took 300 years, I think that's about the right time, 200 years, I'm not exactly sure of the dates, and Rothko just rubbed out the masts, and what you're left with is this kind of glow, this glow. So there's nothing particularly to look at. So what you need to do, I think, is what we'll do when we get to the Tate, when we get to the start of the Tate, we'll just be quiet. Yeah. So Singamanis used to be a tour guide, so he's going to get us there. And then when we get to the Tate, we'll kind of gather, and then we'll just be quiet, and we'll go in, and we'll go straight up to the room. And I would suggest just stay in the room for at least 20 minutes to begin with. What usually happens, because there's nothing to look at, there's nothing to sort of excite your interest, is that you just get left with your own chattering mind, trying to find things to do, like, okay, I'll go and read the labels now. Or you start thinking, I think that painting's upside down. Or you get frustrated, like what am I supposed to be looking at? I mean, I could have done that. That's just you. So just like in meditation, when you first arrive in meditation, to begin with, your mind is just chattering away, isn't it? Just chit chat. It's the same when you go and look at art. So give yourself time just to arrive, maybe wander around the room, sit down, look at the paintings, sit down again, just kind of settle in. And we might not, I don't know if you're all coming, but we might not all be able to get into the room at the same time. So if it feels a bit full, then go off somewhere. I wouldn't start looking at other work. Just go off, find a seat, sit down for a bit, be quiet, collect yourself, just look at people wandering around doing their thing. And then when you're ready, just come into the room and spend a bit of time in there. So if your mind isn't quiet, you can't really see them. There's nothing for your mind to get hold of. So if your mind is chattering, you can't really see the work. So you need to allow your mind to quieten down when we're in there. And there's not much form. There's a little bit of soft form, but it doesn't look like anything. You don't think, oh yeah, that's a building or anything. There's just a bit of form. So it looks like there's not much, but if you stay with them, they're very, very deep. It's like you just get completely lost in them. Allow them, you just need to allow them to have an effect on you. Yeah, just allow it in. Try and let go of trying to wonder what they're about, or thinking about who Mark Rothko was. Just let go of all of that and allow them to have an effect. And they evoke spaciousness. They just evoke spaciousness, and that spaciousness is in you. So in a sense they're a mirror. The depth that you can see into them is mirrored in you. That spaciousness is a state of mind that you can inhabit. Okay, so I'll just briefly say what we're actually going to do in a little bit of detail, and then we'll do it. So this is now the practical bit of the evening. This is now what we're going to do. So hopefully I've given you a flavour of the importance of beauty, the importance of art, and now I'm going to talk about what we're actually going to do this evening. So so we'll start here. We'll sit quietly, just very shortly, and I'll read a poem that I think is relevant to this evening, and then I'll leave. I'll make an offering to the shrine, and then I'll leave, and I'll go and put my coat on and my shoes, and you follow me if you're coming. If you're not coming, you'll need to go downstairs, come into the courtyard and go downstairs, or go home. But anyway, I'll wait in the courtyard. Come, put your shoes on, go to the loo if you need to. Be concise, and gather in the courtyard. Maybe just do it quietly. Maybe let's not get into sort of talking too much while we're doing that bit. And then off we'll go, and we'll basically walk up to the tube. We won't do this bit in silence, so we can chat on the way. We'll go up to the tube, get on the tube, get off at St Paul's, walk over the Millennium Bridge, get to the front door of the Tate, sort of go into quiet, silent, go up to the Rothko Rooms, spend the evening in the Rothko Rooms. You could stay there all evening till 10 o'clock. By the time we get there, it'll only be an hour. I would say really spend a lot of time in the room. I would say that, and you've got to go past boredom. It'll take you a while to get bored, but you've got to go past it. If you can't get past boredom, you can't look at the paintings. So you just wait till you get bored. And you usually know you're bored is when you want to leave. I'm fed up with this, I'm not interested. Or you start reading the labels. So wait till you get bored. Wait long enough for you to get bored, and then wait a little bit longer, and then something will happen. They'll have an effect. So don't bother going to the shop. We're not. So don't bother trying to go and get postcards with the Rothko print. We're not doing that tonight. I mean, you can. I mean, you can do what you want. I mean, but we're not doing that. I'm not doing it. Hopefully, you won't find me in the shop. And we'll just stay in the room. And as I say, come and go if you wish. If it's a bit too busy, go and sit somewhere. Just be quiet. And then come back to the room. At some point we'll get chucked out, 10 to 10, something like that. They'll say, can you leave? And again, sort of feel free to do what you want, but what I'd like is that, Singamanasai, Subhajamati and Shradasiddhi will go down and just gather on the lawn outside the front of the Tate, that big square lawn, and we'll just wait there and wait for anyone else who wants to come and gather. And once we're all gathered, I'll just recite the transference of merit and self-surrender, which is the last verse of the puja. We'll just stand quietly for a bit, I'll ring a bell, and that'll be the end of the evening. Yeah, and then we'll come back here, and you can join us if you wish, or go off and do whatever. So I wanted to finish in a bit of a ritual way. I mean, I don't want to do a puja outside the Tate. I'm not up to that. But it would be nice to finish. It would be nice to finish a little bit ritually, because I feel that we are going to be in the presence of spiritual paintings, spiritual images that are pointing us beyond ourselves, which is the whole purpose of the Dharma life, the whole purpose of the real artist's life. We'll finish in that sort of small ritual way. So do sort of come when we get thrown out. Just do come and join us on the grass, and then that'll conclude the evening. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say about the evening. And of course, we'll be in silence or quiet, but if someone speaks to you, a member of the public speaks to you, then, of course. So it's not like we're completely silent, but it's more of an attitude of quiet, so that we can get into a mood of contemplation. If we're just chatting away too much, there's no point going, honestly. So let's just get into a mood of contemplation. And then we can chat on the way, and we can chat at the end. Okay. And if we get separated in the journey, and you might want to go on your bike or might want to go on the bus or whatever, just meet us there. Basically, the Rothko Room is on level 3, and it's the most western end of the Tate Modern. Yeah, level 3. So if we don't, we'll just, Singamanasai and I will just head off, so join us. But if we get separated, see you there.